Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. So with the spectacular collapse of Nabil Fekir's move to Liverpool yesterday and the fact that the deal almost definitely fell through due to a medical, it's highly unlikely that there's any chance we'll be going back in for the player later on this summer. And that leaves a massive hole in Liverpool's plans for the transfer window, because while, Fekir wasn't necessarily a player that we absolutely definitely needed, I think it's an incredibly important role that Jurgen Klopp and his team of transfer scouts need to fill if they're to look at seriously challenging for multiple honours such as the Premier League and the Champions League next season. And if Neil Jones of Goal.com, and formerly of Liverpool Echo of course, is to be believed, then Jurgen Klopp and Michael Edwards are now already in discussions as to where they go from here and what their plan B is after the Fekir deal fell through. So the kind of player that we're looking for, I think, is very similar to the kind of mould of a player like Fekir, or if you're looking a bit further back, Phil Coutinho at Liverpool. Effectively someone who can replace any player in the front three for reasons, whether it's rotation, whether it's injury, or whether it's simple resting and making sure that no players get fatigued, but can also fit into a kind of withdrawn number 10 role. The kind of role that Oxlade-Chamberlain has done, if you ask me, even better than Phil Coutinho this season, where they're part of a midfield three, but when the ball's going forward and there needs to be a link player between the midfield and the attack, that will be their job. So that is the kind of player that Liverpool are looking for, and here are my top 5 players that I think we should, or at least could, go for in this window. So in at number 5, it is Mario Götze, currently of Borussia Dortmund. Jurgen Klopp did try and bring in Mario Götze as part of his revolution in his first summer at Liverpool back in 2016. That was back when Götze was at Bayern Munich and he was angling for a move away to help get himself more game time and get his career back on track. Eventually what happened was Götze ended up choosing Borussia Dortmund. Liverpool bought Sadio Mane instead, and I think it's safe to say that that's worked out pretty well for all parties involved. However, Mario Götze has recently said that he does want to, at some point in his career, work with Jurgen Klopp as well. And whether this is just him, talking in interviews about how much Jurgen Klopp meant to him, or genuinely angling for a move to Liverpool, it's hard to say at the moment. But on the surface, obviously having worked with Klopp before, he knows the gegenpressing system, he knows the demands of this manager. So when you're thinking about how long it would take a new player coming in to adapt during pre-season, during the first months of the actual competitive season as well, to really get used to Jurgen Klopp's style of play. I mean, you look at how long it took Oxlade-Chamberlain to really hit his stride at the club. Bringing in someone who's already worked with Jurgen Klopp and already knows what's going to be asked of him could actually be hugely helpful for Liverpool in those early months of the season where Liverpool kind of fell away last year. We need someone to hit the ground running, and Götze could be that kind of player for us. He also kind of fits the mould in terms of the style of player we're after and the kind of roles we want them to fulfill. He can play as a number 10, he can play almost as a second striker, and he can, in theory, play as one of those wide forwards, provided they're cutting inside, which is what our forwards tend to do a lot of anyway. So on the surface, it looks like it would be a very good move, and I also think that he wouldn't necessarily cost too much. He's been all right at Dortmund. He hasn't been amazing. He's certainly not one of their most valued stars at the club at the moment, so I don't think it would cost too much. And obviously Jurgen Klopp does have links with the directors of football and the negotiation team at Borussia Dortmund, so that could potentially make things go a little bit smoother, which after the debacle of negotiating with Lyon and Jean-Michel Aulas, I think they'll probably be after something which is going to go much, much easier. However, the main problem with Mario Götze is, of course, his injury record. It's something that can't be avoided, and if we're not going to bring in Nabil Fekir because of his injury record, then I would find it very surprising if Liverpool really, really, really wanted to get in Mario Götze, because he's only played about half of the games he possibly could have done since he arrived back at Borussia Dortmund. His injury record's plagued him all career. He's got a long-standing issue as well. I'm not sure whether it's with joints or bones, or I think it's muscles, something like that. That doesn't look like it's ever going to go away for him. So while that's very unfortunate for Mario Götze, it does just mean that it would be weird for Liverpool to take a punt on this kind of player. So it is a shame because, like I said, he fits the bill almost perfectly in terms of the playing style, the relationship he's got with the manager, and the way that he could fit into the team. But I just think with that injury record, if we want someone who can rotate with the front three and also play in the midfield on a regular basis, Götze's just not going to be able to do that for Liverpool, unfortunately. So in at number 4, it's Christian Pulisic, another Borussia Dortmund attacker, and another that we know Liverpool have been interested in the past. I think it was the same summer that we actually actually tried to sign Mario Götze back in 2016, where Liverpool tabled an £11 million offer for Christian Pulisic. That eventually didn't come to fruition. However, it's no secret that Liverpool have retained their interest in him. I think we were a little bit interested in getting him in last summer as well. Jurgen Klopp definitely wants the player, and I think at the age of 19, not only is he doing really well already, but he's got fantastic potential going forward. And I think at that young age, even though he is effectively a winger, I don't think he's necessarily suited to the kind of withdrawn 10 role or the false 9 role that he would be asked of if he was a rotational player in that Liverpool attacking line. I think at such a young age, it would be fairly easy, especially with a fantastic coach like Jurgen Klopp, who clearly rates him very highly, to sort of mould him into those roles a little bit and just at least give him an opportunity to try it out. You know, give him one game at false 9, give him one game at a withdrawn number 10 role and just see what happens. So yeah, an absolutely fantastic talent. I think there are problems as well with him at Borussia Dortmund. He hasn't signed a contract that's been on the table in February, so there's a suggestion that either, you know, he is just angling for more wages or he is trying to keep his options open in light of a potential move to another big club. We know that he's slightly interested in the Premier League as well, and again, Jurgen Klopp's Borussia Dortmund links could help us out in negotiations there. However, his father, I can't remember his name, but has basically said that any reports of him moving to an English club over the summer transfer window are hogwash. Nice American term for you there, but has basically rubbished the reports. Borussia Dortmund's director, Zorc, I think Michael Zorc, has also said that while he does have regular contact with Jurgen Klopp, he's had no contact over Christian Pulisic. Now, this could be entirely true. This could be simply him keeping his lips shut because he doesn't want to leak any transfer information other than that. So obviously it's not something that we maybe haven't gone in for at the moment, but certainly something we might be considering after the Fekir deal has fallen through. My only problem with Pulisic would be that while that age of 19 is hugely important in terms of his malleability as a talent and also the potential that he has, I think it could cause problems if he's in a rotational role, because I think being at Dortmund right now, where he's a regular starter, really suits him. Whereas if he's at Liverpool, where he's going to be in and out of the side, and he's going to be playing different roles when he is in the side as well, it could potentially hinder his development. And we know for a fact that Jurgen Klopp doesn't like to get in the way of players' careers. He doesn't want to ruin their career just for the benefit of a couple of seasons of having them at Liverpool. So unless he thinks that it's the best move for Pulisic as well, then it's an unlikely one. But certainly with the falling through of the Nabil Fekir deal, I think this is one that Liverpool will be very much paying attention to. So keep your ears and eyes peeled to see what happens there. So in at number 3, it's another player that Liverpool have been linked with in the past. It is Thomas Lemar. Now, he was linked with Liverpool even before we were linked with Nabil Fekir, and he was the original Phil Coutinho replacement, if you will. He absolutely fits the bill in terms of where he plays on the pitch. You know, he can play all the way from that advanced number 10 role in a midfield 3, all the way to playing as a wide forward, as a second striker, and maybe even a false 9 as well. So he absolutely fits the mould. We know that Jurgen Klopp and his team have been very, very interested in the player in the past, and at the age of 22, he's only going to get better. He's still got a lot of potential there, and I think that is something important to consider with Liverpool, because Nabil Fekir was also 24 years old. We definitely saw him having his best years at Liverpool. He also, I think the price for him would have dropped a little bit. One of the main reasons that we pulled out of the deal last summer and didn't really go in for him during January, apart from I think an interest dropping ever so slightly, was the fact that the fee Monaco were demanding was just way too high. You know, the one that they eventually accepted from Arsenal was somewhere around 85 to 90 million pounds, which Liverpool just were not willing to pay. But I think after the season he's had, and also with 1 year having run down on his contract and no real sign of him signing another one, I think that you'd get a pretty decent cut price deal. I mean, he's been linked with Atletico Madrid already this summer transfer window, and the price there has been touted as being around 60 million quid, which is very similar to what Liverpool were willing to offer for Nabil Fekir before we found out that he only had one knee. So yeah, I think that all checks out. Working with Monaco again would be interesting. I mean, obviously things didn't go well with them last time we tried to buy Thomas Lemar, but things obviously went absolutely fantastically when we brought in Fabinho. And I think after the mess that has been the Fekir saga, we quite like to get our next transfer done fairly smoothly. And with what happened with Fabinho, I think Monaco would be a good team to work with there. However, my main problems with Thomas Lemar are that he hasn't really progressed much since Liverpool last tried to sign him. I mean, he had a fantastic season for Monaco in that title-winning season. Since then, his numbers have dropped dramatically in terms of goals and assists. And while he still offers similar things for Monaco, and like I said, at 22 years old, there's still plenty of room for improvement there, it does very much feel like Liverpool have just lost interest. I mean, like I said, there was the potential to go in for him in January when Phil Coutinho left, and the club just weren't really into it. And whether that was to do with the fee or whether that was to do with the fact that they've just got better targets lined up now remains to be seen. And it's possible that now Fekir is off the table, we may actually think, well, actually, Thomas Lemar was the player that we're in for before Fekir, and go back in for him. So like I said, very much fits the mould we're looking for. I think it's a signing that would excite all Liverpool fans. I'd like to see him come to the club. Clearly, there's a lot of potential there, and it remains interesting to see whether or not Liverpool decide to pursue that avenue again. So in at number 2, we're into the really big guns here, is Ousmane Dembele. Now, he is, let's be honest, an absolutely fantastic footballer. He hasn't had the best season of his life at Barcelona, but at the age of 21, we all know what potential he has. He was absolutely brilliant at Borussia Dortmund, so good that Barcelona were willing to pay a 3-figure sum for him, which at his age of 20 at the time was absolutely incredible. And while injuries have hampered him a little bit, and that is something to consider, obviously, his injury record, the numbers speak for themselves, and the way he plays speaks for himself. I mean, he can play across the front three, he can play as that second striker, even as a number 9, I think, and in both wing roles as well, maybe even as like a number 10 as well. So I think he suits the bill in that way. We know that Jurgen Klopp is incredibly interested in the player. I mean, even when it was mentioned that he might possibly be on the market in one of Klopp's press conferences, he sort of joked about how suddenly he was very interested in looking at the player again. So I think he would be an absolutely fantastic player. And like I said, at the age of 21, he's got the world at his feet. He would be absolutely brilliant. And there's been suggestions already this summer that Liverpool were interested in the player. And I think with the Fekir deal now dead, it'll be interesting to see whether we pursue that avenue more or whether we actually think it's just dead in the water. However, there are some big problems with the possibility of bringing in Ousmane Dembele. For starters, Barcelona's directors have basically said he's not for sale, which isn't exactly a great start to get off to. I mean, a lot of sporting directors say that about a lot of players that end up leaving in transfer windows, but it certainly isn't the best way to start. I think price-wise, because they spent so much on him, I think it was somewhere close to 135 million quid. They're not really going to want to let him go for anything below 100 million pounds, if you ask me, and that's even if they want to get rid of him. So I can't really see Liverpool stumping up that amount of money, to be perfectly honest. I mean, if we're haggling over Fekir's price, bear in mind this was before the knee issue. If we were haggling over like 50 or 60 million for his price, then I think something over 100 million quid, Liverpool are going to potentially back off at that. And like I said at the top of the video, it's an important position. It's something that will definitely help us next season, but it's not an absolute number 1 priority. It's not the kind of thing where if we went in next season without buying someone in this role, you think, well, we're doomed. We're absolutely doomed. I think we would be fine without it. So for a club like Liverpool to spend 100 million quid on someone like that just feels a little bit unlikely. And obviously there's also doubts. Like I said, we don't really know whether he can play that advanced number 10 role. I think if we were to play all 4 of them at once with the front 3 and Ousmane Dembele in as well, then you're basically playing a 4-2-3-1 and asking Mane to be the one who drops deep and does a creative role. So yeah, it would be an absolutely fantastic signing, a very exciting one, fits the bill almost perfectly in terms of playing style. We know that Jurgen Klopp would absolutely love the player at Liverpool, and it would be a huge statement as well. But with the state of the transfer market at the moment, the amount of money he'd cost, and also the fact that Barcelona apparently aren't that interested in selling him, I can't really see this one happening. But if it did happen, I'd go absolutely mad. We'd all go absolutely mad. It would be fantastic. So please, Liverpool, just get the deal done. Would be nice, wouldn't it? So in at number 1, we've got a bona fide superstar here. It's Antoine Griezmann. This is a player that I think we would all go absolutely mad, again, absolutely mental. We'd all lose our heads if he came to Liverpool, because it would be an absolutely huge signing. I think, like I said, he is a superstar. He offers so much in terms of goals, assists, and work rate for the team as well. And also, quite crucially, he offers it on the biggest stage possible. You know, Atletico Madrid are a huge club. They have won league titles, not with Antoine Griezmann, but they are always in that kind of ballpark when he's there. they're always getting to the latter stages of the Champions League normally, apart from this season with the Europa League run. Although in that Europa League run, he was scoring in the final, scoring in the semi-finals. He was hugely important to them there. So we're guaranteed goals, we're guaranteed assists, we're guaranteed a proper return in terms of numbers, and also contributions on the biggest stage as well. And crucially, he can also play across the front line. You know, he is primarily a striker, but I think if you asked him to sort of shadow Firmino and play as a second striker, if you asked him to play on the wings, I think in Liverpool's system, as the wingers, like I said, they cut inside a lot, so I don't think he'd mind that. So he'd certainly fit that kind of role in the team. And also, quite crucially, I think we offer him a very attractive brand of football. You know, you've got the counter-attacking football that he benefited from at Atletico. You know, his pace and his ability to read the game makes counter-attacking suit him really well, and also his ability to finish chances at the end of it. But also, if he's getting a little bit tired of that, we can also offer a lot of possession football as well. And the big issue with Antoine Griezmann that I will come on to in a minute is the links to Barcelona. Now, Barcelona, again, play possession football. That's something that we can offer, but they don't do as much counter-attacking. So I think in terms of style of play, we actually suit Griezmann pretty perfectly. And like I said, while he's a superstar, he'd be very difficult to get. I wonder whether maybe just the Jurgen Klopp factor comes in there. You know, we know for a fact that when Liverpool have struggled to get players, when there's been big competition to get the players that we want to sign, Jurgen Klopp has really helped in that he'll come in, he'll effectively just tap the player up. But, you know, tapping up, who really knows if that's allowed or not anymore? He will talk to the players and convince them to come to the club. So while it is a little bit out there, it's unlikely. I think if Liverpool devoted a lot of resources to getting the player in, I think it's certainly a possibility that we could see progress in trying to get in Antoine Griezmann. Now, obviously, the big concerns around him, like I said, similar to Ousmane Dembele, he only really plays across the front three. You can't really see him playing in that withdrawn role, but I think he's such a fantastic player that you wouldn't want to waste him in a role where he's not really suited to. And like I said, in those kind of situations, you'd actually just drop Mane deep. And most of the time anyway, this is a rotational thing. It's not a matter of getting all four of them on the pitch at the same time. It is more about having someone to cover for all three of the front three at the same time. And he absolutely suits that. The other problems as well, the price, I think it's somewhere close to £100 million that Atletico are looking at. We also know that they're not really open to selling. The whole saga between him and Barcelona has gone on for so long that you wonder whether Liverpool really want to cause themselves the hassle of wading in there, or whether it's just worth leaving it and seeing what happens there. And like I said, the price, close to £100 million, so I think it's definitely something that Liverpool could afford. It's something that with the quality of player we'd be buying, it's certainly worth considering. But it sort of depends, I think, for me, on this situation, on how much Atletico are actually willing to let him go, and also on the other players available. You know, I think if a Thomas Lemar or a Pulisic or any other player like that is available for less money, and we know that Jurgen Klopp likes those players, then I can see us going for them. But if he really wants a star, if he really wants someone who he thinks can elevate the team to the next level in the biggest games possible, then I think Antoine Griezmann would be absolutely fantastic. And on a personal level, I'd just love to see him at the club. I think especially after everyone's been laughing Liverpool off about the Fekir deal, it would be absolutely brilliant to just say, actually, we'll just get Griezmann instead. It would be fantastic. I'd love to see him at Liverpool. I think he'd be a brilliant player under Jurgen Klopp, and he's got all the tools to succeed here. It's unlikely, but I'm crossing my fingers already that we at least give it a go. So there you have it. That is my top 5. Mario Götze, Christian Pulisic, Thomas Lemar, Ousmane Dembele, and the fantastic Antoine Griezmann. Let me know in the comments who you think Liverpool should sign. Also, let me know whether you think any of those transfers are actually likely to happen. I think, like I said at the top of the video, with the talks between Edwards and Klopp already ongoing about what we're going to do after the falling through of the Fekir deal, it's going to be a very interesting few weeks now to see where Liverpool go from here and what their plan B is. So do let me know who you think we should sign. Thank you very, very much for watching this video. If you did like it, hit that like button below. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LSC Focus TV on Twitter for all the latest updates, and I'll see you soon, hopefully, with some more transfer news. Bye for now.